Right. Hello, Shy Hack Night, and thank you for having us. I'm Luca Harsh, and I am here with Fabio to represent Commuters Take Action. And yeah, we are so stoked to be here to tell you all about how we're taking action to fight ghost buses and other similar reliability problems with Chicago public transit. Right. I'm gonna hand it over to Fabio and we'll get this thing started.
Thanks for the introduction, Luca. Let's get rolling. Next slide, please. So how do we get where we are? All of us living in Chicago pre-2020, things were pretty good with the CTA. It had its little quirks, but overall, you can rely on the CTA to get you to your work, get you to a Cubs game, or get you back home after a long night of drinking. And it will get you places. Then we all know what happened in March 2020. Transit ridership went way down. And initially, a lot of people were getting sick. There were certainly a lot of unforeseen events happening. But throughout 2020, 2021, CTA kept claiming that they didn't cut service. The schedules have been the same. So as I myself and other people got vaccinated, summer 2021 was a great summer of reopening, and I started to take the CTA some more. And that summer I noticed that even though the schedules are the same, I'm on the blue line. I'm often waiting for the blue line for 20, 30 minutes. But yeah, look at the schedules, nothing has changed. So I'm trying to think, what's happening to CTA? They're like pretending that everything's normal, but obviously things aren't where they should be. Next slide, please. Well, one of the events that really kind of solidified this impression for me was the last weekend of July in 2021 with Lollapalooza. A lot of riders in town. The CTA put out this great announcement shouting increased capacity. So I was like, yeah, if I want to go downtown that weekend, there's going to be lots of trains running. Well, I go downtown that weekend, and next slide, please. I go downtown that weekend and I'm waiting for the Blue Line trains for 20, 40 minutes. But once again, no announcements, nothing's happening. Next slide. Next. So yeah, what's going on? Next slide, please. So the CTA has monthly board meetings, and I kind of tried that as my first avenue to reach out to them and ask about this, and maybe try to get an answer. And maybe they just didn't know about their schedule being so wrong. But obviously the matter is more complicated. So in August 2021, I submitted my first comment to the CTA board. Unfortunately, these comments are limited to 3 to 5 minutes, so they don't give you room to talk about much. But my message was basically, hey, the schedules say one thing, but the real service is something else. The tracker's going to be relied on. And unfortunately, these board meetings are very, very one-sided conversation. You get to the meeting, you present your case, and at the end, the CTA board, the president say, thank you for your comment, and then they go on. So it was not really something that satisfied me. So let's go to the next slide, please. And next. So me being a software developer, I really wanted to put some quantitative data behind these impressions I've gotten on the CTA throughout that summer. I knew that the CTA published data on their own service. They have an API where you can track buses and trains on their system. So I'm like, hey, I can write a service that can monitor how many trains actually show up compared to what is scheduled. On the CTA API, there's one crucial field in the JSON response that's called is scheduled. So you can distinguish between a train that is actually happening and is on the rails, and train that is just scheduled and probably will not show up. So I wrote this Node.js server. It's been running 24/7 since about November 2021. Pings the CTA API every minute for arrivals at the California Blue Line station. That's where I live. Saves the database to a Firestore database. And yeah, I've been collecting CTA Blue Line reliability data for about 9 months now, and it's not looking great. Here's 821 from last Sunday. You can see they ran about 53% of the trains they're scheduled, and that's actually pretty good for a Sunday. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this is a chart of Blue Line trains over the past 9 months at California Station. You can see that on average is a little bit more than 50%. There's no really trend line up and down. Overall, the service has not really improved since this winter. I know the CTA for a lot of times have been blaming poor service on people being sick out of COVID. But I've tried to relate this chart to like the current COVID epidemiological situation in Illinois and Chicago. I found very little to no relation. So I think overall the CTA is just very short-staffed and has not been able or is unwilling to reflect that in their schedules and trackers up until now. A lot of these dots that are like nearing 25%, 30%, those are usually weekends. Weekends have been especially bad on the rail side. With some Saturdays or Sundays, yeah, being close to 25%. Night service is quite bad too. The Blue Line is supposed to operate every 15 minutes for most of the night. With a lot of essential workers going to O'Hare Airport. But it's not uncommon to see a gap in service of 1 hour, hour and a half during early morning hours, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. So really not great. And the unfortunate thing about it is there's really no way to predict the service. Like sometimes it'll be decent, but usually not. The headways intervals between trains are quite inconsistent as well. Next slide, please. Next. So after I implemented this little Blue Line tracking tool, I shared my initial finding with some transit nerd friends on Facebook and other groups, and I know people noticed it and like, yeah, this is actually what we've been seeing, and it's nice to see some data behind it. And we got together with some great people like Luca and others, and organize ourselves into what commuters take action. We started out with just kind of like a list of links on Linktree that encourage people to submit feedback to the CTA and speak at Cta Board Meetings. I think many of you probably know, if you go to the CTA's website, there's a feedback form where you can tell them that their service has not been great. We've been encouraging people to do that a lot, and the CTA often says that they pride themselves in taking feedback seriously. But seeing that not much has changed in the past 2 years, we don't think that's quite a true representation. So yeah, we started out with that, but we quickly found out that that we really want to get some public attention to this. I think this was about April, May of this year, and there was not much of a, in terms of like media stories on this, no one was really paying attention to how crappy the CTA had become. Next slide, please. Let's go back just. Oh. All right, there we are. So our first kind of outreach campaign was designing these posters. If you've ever been to a CTA rail station, you may recall this kind of a design layout. We try to imitate what the CTA has for their service change announcements, but we try to kind of to put our own spin on it. We started hanging these up at CTA L stations and on trains themselves. But we found out that while this got some attention, and it wasn't great, because I think just like the real CTA signs, people tend to just go right past these and ignore these. And especially at the L stations, they got quickly discovered by CTA personnel, taken down. Although encouragingly, I saw a Twitter post, a tweet about last week that someone still saw this sign on a Blue Line train, which at this point must have lasted there for about 2 months or so. So Great stuff. It's nice that they are still around. All right, now I'd like to hand it back over to Luca, who's going to tell you more about more things that we've been doing.
Great, thank you, Fabio. All right, and that brings us to our sticker campaign. Yeah, since the signs were getting taken down, we pivoted to a stickering campaign because it's easy and cheap to get big quantities of them, and you can stick them up anywhere. So yeah, we put them up on bus and train stations, and they've got a little QR code that you can scan, and it links to the passenger report form. And in the first run of stickers, there was a typo on them that said "reprot" instead of "report," and so we decided to name our mascot Reprot the Ghost. And here's a picture of our pal Olivia putting up the stickers. She's dope. She's MVP. Right. And since May, we've been running a Google form where transit riders can report their experiences with buses and trains that are either late or just straight up don't show up when they're scheduled, which is what we call ghost buses and trains. And well, we just got our 1000th report. Yeah, this is a little outdated, but yeah, so we've gotten huge response, so much data, and this becomes material to both share at the CTA board meetings, and we also post it on our social media. And like, yeah, we're still looking to do more with the data to like really put pressure on the CTA board. And like, we found that the comments are really powerful and they get more attention than the raw data itself. Yeah, though like I gotta say, like the Blue Line ran 52% of its scheduled trains. Yeah, that's pretty hard hitting. Right, here are a few examples of comments. This is my second time this week of arriving to the Ashland and 63rd terminal before the train is scheduled to depart and the train not leaving on time. I'm sick of this. I have appointments and places to get to on time. I'm constantly late because there aren't any reliable conductors for the Green Line at Ashland and 63rd. As usual, the scheduled screen at the Kedzie Brown Line had no relation to reality. This confounds me because it is one stop from the end of the line. There's no excuse for not having accurate information about the trains one stop away. Ended up having to take an Uber home from my local grocery store because the bus never showed. And after 20 minutes in the sun, my groceries were literally melting. I'm disabled, and the extended wait in the heat is dangerous for me, often triggering medical episodes. And for my service dog, who's at risk of heat stroke, waiting at stops with no shelter and in the direct sun. CTA's failures disproportionately affect already marginalized groups. The 411 text line, Ventra app, and various map apps are all saying different ETAs for this bus. Ventra says it'll be another 29 minutes until it shows up. According to a bystander waiting for the same bus, this is typical, and often subsequent buses will show up full and unable to take any more passengers. I'm trying to get to work, and this is unacceptable. Right, so yeah, this is, people are fed up about this, as you can see. Yeah, last week, we took our data to the next level by launching a daily Twitter bot, which posts the number of reports from the past day and highlights how many e-riders had wait times longer than 22 minutes, a randomly chosen rider comment, and the Blue Line service reliability from the previous day. Yeah, it's all written in Node and uses the Google Form and Twitter APIs, and the CTA responded to it once. Yeah, they were kind of like, oh, hey, we're working on this. and linked to their meeting the moment plan. Like, cool CTA. Yeah, and we've also been fortunate to be featured in some media outlets, including the Tribune, the Block Club, WBEZ's Reset, and the link to our forums has also been organically making its way around social media. Like, yeah, it's fun to, yeah, sometimes I'll see my friends talking about it, like, and finding out about it from ways other than me telling about them. That's pretty cool. Yeah, here's the, yeah, pretty good spot on the Tribune front page there. Right, so what's next? Where are we headed after this? Yeah, first of all, we are continuing to present our findings at the CTA board meetings. These meetings are on every second Wednesday of the month. And the next one is at, yeah, wait, hang on. Not tomorrow, but, and they take place at 10 a.m. And yeah, we've also been meeting with alders to like get them on board with our cause and discuss what they can do to help. And of course, we're keeping on collecting that passenger feedback and sharing the stories that we get out of it. Yeah, and we did have a new shipment of stickers come in, and we're planning some bigger actions as well. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, this is it's a really exciting project to be involved in. Like, I've been really enjoying what we're doing here, and it's a sick crew, great people, and we'd love to have you all on board. You can help us out by following us on social media. At Commuters Take Action on Instagram and at Commuters Action on Twitter, because the whole thing was too long for Twitter. And yeah, you can reach out to us on email or our Instagram DMs if you want to put up some stickers. We're always happy with that. And like, we're always raising money to get more stickers and like do more to further the cause. And you can always spread the word, tell your friends who are fed up about the current state of the CTA to report their ghost buses, and keep kicking ass on the ghost buses. Because the more data we collect, the more we can push the discussion. Yeah, and talk to your alders. Right, here are all of the ways you can connect with us. And that's all, folks. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. This is your virtual applause on Zoom. We do have a couple of questions. So one audience question, is the source code for the Twitter bot also open source or available on GitHub?
Sure. Actually, I'll take that one. Yeah, I wrote this Twitter bot just over a weekend. I haven't put it up on GitHub. Honestly, the code is pretty elementary. I could share parts of it, but most of the pain in that project was getting like Google API and Twitter authentication in place. Otherwise, it's maybe 10 lines of code just to pull the data together and post it. Yeah, if you'd like to see some of that core source code, you can connect with me and I'll find a way to get it out to you.
Cool. Another question from the audience. Could you explain a bit more on how the API call to the CTA is made and what is received when you call the API?
Sure. I think, yeah, I can take this one as well. So the CTA has APIs for both tracking buses and trains. Weirdly enough, as I'm sure you know, Lori, the bus and train API is weirdly different. So my experience is with the train API. There's several different ways to interact with it. The one way I interact with it is you can look up a station ID. They have a log list of like numerical station IDs. I think the California Blue Line stop next to me is 405, 40720 or something like that. And yeah, you can just ask for arrivals at that station. It'll give you a list of predicted arrivals. And in each of that arrival objects, you have that very important is scheduled field, which can be true or false. Just a Boolean flag. If it is marked as a scheduled train, that means that the arrival board for that station is being backfilled with scheduled data. But the issue with the CTA is they haven't updated their schedules. So on a Saturday, they will tell you that Blue Line comes every 6 minutes. And yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth. They come maybe every 20 minutes. So as I'm going through this data for my Blue Line tracker, I only look at train arrivals that are not scheduled, meaning that means that they are live tracked, and that it's an actual train that's on the rails. And I think they have some rail transponders on the actual rails that detect the train's movements. So yeah, I guess one life pro tip kind of along with this that many Chicagoans have to learn the hard way. If you're taking the CTA somewhere and you want to use the tracker, if you look at the arrival board of the station, look for like a kind of like a Wi-Fi radio looking sign next to the arrival. If that's there, that means that train is being or bus is being live tracked and is likely to show up. If there's like a little clock icon or nothing to that arrival time, that means tough luck. That train is not going to show up.
Thank you. Another question, what is the most surprising comment that you've received from a CTA writer in the Google form? Or a surprising comment, I guess. Anything surprising from the comments?
You want to take that one, Luca?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one about the one from the slide about the waiting in the heat triggering health episodes and being bad for the service dog was real. Like that one hit me really hard. Just because, yeah, I mean, it just highlights that the stakes that we're dealing with can be literal life or death in some cases.
Yeah, I thought it was a really powerful quote. And then I guess a question that I would be curious about, have you had any issues with like spam or abuse of the Google form, or have most of the reports been like genuine from writers?
Yeah, I mean, nothing yet. It's all been genuine reports so far.
That's nice. Another question from the audience, is there a pattern, and is the pattern consistent for scheduled trains or bus? I guess it seems like a pattern in like the ghost bus or the ghosting behavior.
Yeah, I can take this one. So yeah, I mean, the one data I have the most on is my Blue Line data, and yeah, there's some patterns. Weekends tend to be bad. During work days, we never see more than like 65% of scheduled trains on the Blue Line. It's always pretty consistent. As far as our form collecting, I think we're kind of suffering from the fact that we haven't been able to get our stickers all around the city. We were only in certain locations. So one of our members lives near the Damon 50 bus, and he's been putting a lot of stickers out there. So a lot of our reports on our Google form come from the 50 bus, which doesn't make it any less valuable. But as far as like an overall holistic view about where service is good and bad in the city, I think our sticker distribution isn't quite there yet too. So we can like draw to some broad conclusions.
Another question from the audience. We understand that getting more buses and trains moving will be a longer term proposal. could a workaround limit the app output to just vehicles that are moving and track that as they move? So I guess a question about like is there an interim solution in terms of the data display while they work on improving the actual service reliability?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that's exactly one of the things that we're asking for in the meantime, for just accurate scheduling on the tracker. Because I mean, if they have, like, since they have the ability to distinguish between the two, it's like, come on, it shouldn't be that hard. You know?
Yeah. Another question, which buses and trains are the worst in your findings?
So actually another friend of ours, Brandon, he's put together a similar tracker to my Blue Line one, and where he's been tracking all of the train lines. So from his findings, he's only been running this for about 2 months. The Blue Line that I live on is actually the worst L service in terms of reliability. The Red Line is pretty down there as well. Weirdly enough, Orange Line on the L service seems to have their stuff together quite well. They're running most of their days they run more than 90% of service somehow. Brown Line is quite bad too, can dip into the 50s. As far as buses go, I think hopefully this will be answered in a few weeks by the Ghost Bus project from Shy Hack Night.
Yeah, stay tuned, everybody. The Ghost Buses breakout. We'll be meeting tonight if anyone's interested. Get our little plug in. Another question, do you want to or plan to expand to more lines with the reliability bot? I assume like the tweeting beyond just the Blue Line.
Yeah. So like I said, one of our friends been tracking all of the lines. So I think I might try to integrate with his system to tweet about all of them. I think this thing was just something we wanted to try get up and running as quickly as possible. So it's like, hey, I have this Blue Line data, let's just post it out there. But yeah, one thing we've been finding is that these comments are really the most, I mean, to me, they're the most powerful thing. You know, it often speaks a lot better than data. So I think we're also thinking about trying to post more of the writers' comments throughout the day and to really get those quotes out there.
Another data question. When you're tracking bus or train arrival times, do you attach arrival times to the next bus that enters the station, or do you track arrival time no shows to train numbers? So I guess like matching to specific trips is probably the question.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think that they call them runs on the rail side of things. So yeah, I mean, once a run shows up on the tracker as a not scheduled run, so a live run, I think we can usually rely on the fact that it's gonna make it to the station. So the one thing I found out about the train tracker is it's only going to show up live trains on the tracker 25 minutes out. So this is another good live pro tip as you're looking at your Ventra app. So those Wi-Fi, the live track trains with the Wi-Fi symbol, those will only show up 25 minutes out. But if you're living near the line terminus, then they're only going to show up when they leave the terminus. But anyway, yeah, if it shows up on the tracker with being 25 minutes out and the run is a real one, then we have pretty good we can tell with good certainty that the train's actually going to show up at that station at that point, unless it's like a not in service train or an express train, but that's not coded correctly on the tracker. But otherwise, yeah, once it shows up on the tracker as a real run, I save it into my database and collect that record of it.
Cool. Another question, kind of more on the reach side. So someone is curious about the reach that you've had so far. For example, do you know how many page views the link tree has had, or how often that's being viewed?
Do you want to go that one, Luca?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I can see if I can pull that. Yeah, I haven't checked that actually, so I'm gonna see if I can pull that up.
We can do another question while you're looking for that and come back. Another question, how can I, as a commuter, provide physical proof that a tracker said to arrive at a given time, but doesn't? Is that something that you all are collecting, I guess?
Physical proof, I mean, you can take a picture and or something, but I mean, I think if you submit our form and we'll record that data, we'll trust you on that. I mean, the frustrating thing about it is that like CTA, they surely have their own data on this and they know how many buses and trains are running, but they have not been honest about communicating that. They've only recently changed their rhetoric about kind of, saying there's some reduced service, but they're really wishy-washy about it. For all of 2021, they were claiming they had their one pre-canned line saying how they have not reduced service. So, I think really the thing, the one agency that should, the one part that should step up to the game and, admit to what's happening is the CTA, and they need to tell us how many trains they're actually running and buses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Luca, do you want to check back in on the cage counts or not yet?
Not yet, sorry.
No, all good. Another kind of broader question, have you heard of similar initiatives in other cities or looking at other transit agencies, and have you connected with anybody outside of Chicago about this issue?
Sure. We haven't connected with anyone else. We know there's some transit riders union in other cities, like New York has a pretty big one, and there's one being started in Chicago kind of as we speak, and we've been in touch with them. We've been making some research around the news about how other agencies are handling the staffing shortage, since it's not a problem unique to Chicago. And we can say that other agencies seem to be a lot more honest about their communication. For example, Los Angeles Metro or in Portland, I've seen some numerous press releases from this year saying, hey, in LA Metro, we do have a driver shortage, so we're going to reduce our schedules, and our schedule is going to look like this. This is something the CTA has not done up until now. So I think they need to take some inspiration from the other cities.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess as a related question, what have you heard anything more? I know that the CTA has been kind of making some announcements lately that they're going to be doing things. Have you all heard any specifics of what any of those initiatives are, or have you started to see any of that show up in your data yet at all?
Should I take a look out, or are you ready to go? All right, I'll take it. All right. So yeah, kind of to give some background, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, CTA finally admitted to something by announcing their meeting the moment plan. It's a big PDF you can find on their website that's kind of saying how they're gonna address all these service issues. A big part of the announcement is how they're gonna improve safety, which has been a big topic in the public discussion lately. And they have some fairly loose things about how they're gonna improve the trackers, how they're gonna post tracker updates. Apparently on the CTA's website, there's gonna be kind of a new tracker interface, and they're saying that they're gonna update schedules to better reflect real service, but they're also quite wishy-washy about it. And once again, until we actually see those new schedules published, we won't stop pushing them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think just maybe one or two more questions. Do you have any recommendations for people who are going to be working with transit data based on your experience so far? Any lessons learned about how to work with transit data?
Ooh, that's that's a good one. I'm gonna need to take a second to think about it. Luca, do you have your Linktree stuff ready?
Yeah, it was giving me trouble logging into the analytics. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I guess working with transit data, one thing that I've found is that this, the CTA API and the bus API it's fairly well documented, but some of the design is not the best, I suppose. So just be careful of the data, try to just make good observations about it. If you're gonna do anything with tracking the CTA, just make sure you distinguish between the scheduled and live thing. That's really the biggest thing. There's also a lot of users of the CTA API. It's pretty good to search GitHub for existing projects that hook into it to give you some inspiration. So I recommend that. But otherwise, it's been a pretty good journey. Honestly, Laurie, if you wanna pitch in too, you've been working with the bus tracker API as well. So anything, please share.
Yeah, I think for me, the challenge has been the fact that it is these unique APIs and not the GTFS RT spec, which I'm more familiar with. So CTA publishes scheduled data in the standard GTFS format, but their real-time data is in these different APIs. And as Fabio mentioned, there's a different API for train versus bus, and things like that. So I think just learning the quirks has been kind of the same thing. You just kind of have to learn through their documentation. And I was looking at it yesterday, and I think the PDF for the buses hasn't been updated since 2016. So on the one hand, I guess it's fairly stable, but on the other hand, maybe it's not very innovative.
I guess for the programmers here, one funny thing that still baffles me is on some of the API fields, the station ID, which is and is numeric, but it's a station ID, but it's often stored as a floating integer, floating point number. I'm like, why does that happen? So just some things to watch out for.
Yeah, that I feel like that kind of thing happens all the time. One other audience question that just came in: other than service reliability, are there any other relevant data that the CTA API provides, such as data on personnel?
So in personnel, no, that's kind of a black box for us. We've been trying to find out more how bad is their staffing shortage. I know we know they're hiring a lot, which means they're missing a lot of people. Another API that's pretty useful that is this for service announcements. So if they have scheduled track work or a bus has to reroute, there's an API where you can look into that. As far as personnel and stuff, the CTA publishes other documents. You can look at their yearly budget, and you can see how many operators they have budgeted and stuff like that. But as far as APIs, it's mostly on tracking data for services, not so much as the personnel and other stuff in the CTA.
Yeah, I believe the RTA has a data portal that includes operational transparency information for CTA, Metra, and PACE. I have not actually explored that data very much, but I think that they publish some operational stuff. I'm not sure if personnel details, but that might be something for folks to check out. So I think that was our last question. I guess just any other anything else that you all want to share before we wrap? I guess one other thing would just be what are your kind of specific, I think you kind of wrapped on this, but just to maybe reiterate, what are your specific asks for the CTA at this point? What are the action items that you most want to see, just to close on that?
Right. So yeah, the most immediate action that we want to see from them is more reliable trackers. No more ghost buses, and then after that, we just want more reliable scheduling and more transparency from the CTA, because they have straight up lied to us during this. A spokesperson from the CTA said, oh yeah, just go to the Citizens Advisory Board. We listened to you. And then we found out that this advisory board isn't active. So like, yeah, beyond just like, I mean, of course, the reliability of the transit itself is the most important thing, but we also like just want them to listen and be more honest with us.
I feel like that's a strong note to end on. So thank you both again for your time. And then I don't know if we can get the slide back up of the post-presentation Zoom. And cool, there we go. So if folks want to join us in about 10 minutes at 8 o'clock, we'll start the remote Zoom call where you can introduce yourself to the rest of other members of the Chi-Hacknight community. And then hear breakout group pitches, including the Ghostbusters breakout. Spoiler alert. And so with that, I think we will close by saying go forth and hack.